dovetail on what Larry Sequist has just mentioned about the epidemic of obesity and diabetes that is upon us. That statistic that he didn't mention is that the children now being born have a 27-year lifespan differential between ours, a loss of 27 years due to this obesity epidemic. I'm proud of the fact that I managed, in the time that we amended the WASL requirements 2 years ago, that I included in that final amended bill the requirement that physical education be a part of the classroom-based assessments that would be available to every single student going through school. In our zeal for reading, writing, and arithmetic, we've certainly forgotten that being healthy is fundamental to learning well. And physical education and the notion of health care in the classroom has just taken a back seat to everyone's detriment. I think we are on the right path when we have committed ourselves to having every child with health care insurance by the year 2010, and we've made gigantic strides in that direction. The other thing that I think is a hopeful sign on the horizon is, in the interest of making certain that we are as effective and efficient in our delivery of medicine, we are looking for that new concept of evidence-based medicine as the foundation for what the state will pay for when we fund the basic health plan. I suspect that will in turn reflect on what is offered through commercial insurance plans as well.
Becky Crane.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate the importance of exercise, and I think that's one of the reasons I belong to the Y. And out in Gig Harbor, we're very blessed to have a new YMCA going in, and I've been working on helping with fundraising for that. I think that's going to be a great addition to our community. And I would like to also support the trend towards having healthy food in the schools and watching nutrition. I think that's extremely important. In terms of healthcare, I support things like allowing businesses to have a tax credit when they provide health insurance for their employees. I think that's something that's very important. And furthermore, I think that we should allow a broader range of health options, health insurance options, and I want to work very hard to lower the cost of health insurance for health insurance consumers here in the state. There are a lot of things that we can do, allowing more competition in, allowing health savings accounts, like Ron mentioned. So I think that those things together, I'm looking forward to seeing improvements, especially with the trend towards getting kids to be fit and more active.
All right, Jim Hines.
Yeah, currently there's about 750,000 people in Washington State without health insurance. That grows every year, and obviously many of these people are children. Massachusetts took a radical step, and with the Republican governor and the Democrat-controlled legislature actually is trying a new step where they're forcing everyone in the state to carry an insurance plan because they're so concerned. This is a complex issue, but I like what they're doing. Healthcare is a very personal part of our lives, and I think the move toward asking folks to carry insurance and making it easily accessible through reductions of mandates and offering a basic health plan through insurance companies. We need to offer more basic health plans so that insurance companies can enter the market. I also like the idea of recess and PE in schools. I can remember it. I think it's a pretty neat thing. I am sitting up here tonight because I'm involved in a sex offender case, and I've been the one kind of leading the charge on making our streets safe. Our kids would be healthier if they could walk and exercise outside and run our streets in safety too, and I think that's a component too. But obviously we have a crisis in healthcare, and there's no simple answer.
And Derek Kilmer.
You know, it is tough for a child to learn when he or she isn't healthy, and I think that highlights the importance of children's health care here in our state, frankly everywhere. This last year I joined my seatmate in supporting a bill that established the goal of covering all kids by the year 2010. And that new law assumes that the state will help with coverage and make coverage more affordable, particularly for low-income families through the Children's Health Insurance Program. I think that's a step in the right direction. I think there are also things we need to do targeted at making healthcare more affordable for all of us so we can cover our families. I like the idea of enabling businesses to pool their purchases, try to see a reduction in cost, just as we've seen in some of the other states. I agree with my seatmate about the importance of moving towards evidence-based healthcare. I think that's a step in the right direction. This last year, I co-sponsored a bill that did something similar to what Becky's proposing, which is providing some tax relief for businesses that create good jobs, that actually pay a decent wage and provide benefits to their employees so that more families can afford health coverage. But this is a critical thing, not just when it comes to healthcare, but when it comes to education, because you cannot learn if you are not healthy.
Thank you. All right, question 3 is about sex offenders. Parents are concerned about the safety of their children and their community. Sex offender monitoring has been a hot topic for Washington State PTA for several years. Under what conditions do you feel constant electronic monitoring of sex offenders is justified? And would you expand the current minimum sentencing for those who fail to register after conviction of a felony sex offense? So let's start in the middle. Start with Becky Krantz.
Yes, I would, to the last part of that question. And I think that's extremely important. And I think there really needs to be teeth in that when people do not register, I think in the past that we've been too lax in letting that slide and letting people go on and not register and not really have real consequences. So I think we really need to toughen that up, to provide real consequences. If they don't register, they're going to go to jail. And I think furthermore, we need to toughen up what was passed last session. We need to include family members, I think, in the Jessica's Law, so that people who are family members that abuse their children also face mandatory jail time and less chance of counseling. So I think that's important as well.
All right, Patricia Lenz.
I voted last year for the GPS monitoring of sex offenders, and the budget finally was enacted in a way that funded a pilot. And I have just gotten a report back from that pilot, and although we thought it was a very, very good idea and was a part of the 18 bills that we passed that were created one of the toughest sex offender packages in the country, it turned out through this pilot we learned that GPS monitoring really doesn't work if you have people who are homeless. There's no place for them to call in at the end of the day. So you have them with this bracelet on, and the reporting system is technically just not possible. So until we figure out another way to do that, the merits of it only goes to those people who you probably know already their whereabouts. So it was a disappointing result from this pilot. As I said, 18 bills we passed, the strongest sex offender package in the country, and the notion of a registered sex offender having to register as he changes residence or at the time he is convicted is very much a part of this package. I think it's critical that we do know the whereabouts of an offender who has been convicted.
Derek Kilmer.
Yeah, I have in addition to being the state representative for the 26th district, my most important title is dad. I have a six-month-old daughter at home, and making sure all of our kids are safe. There's obviously nothing more important to me than making sure all of our kids are safe. This past year, I joined law enforcement and prosecutors and the victims advocate in supporting a number of bills that will enable us to catch more offenders, convict more offenders, and make sure our kids are safe. I like the idea of GPS monitoring. We got to make sure it works, but I actually think expanding that so we know where some of these offenders are makes good sense. I also think that we should provide substantial penalties for failure to register, so I'd certainly support that. I'm proud of the fact that the people we trust most on sex offender issues trust me to get results in Olympia. Every one of the law enforcement groups, the law enforcement administrators, the Council of Police and Sheriffs, both the Kitsap and Pierce County Deputies Guilds have supported my campaign. Both our county prosecutors, the Kitsap and Pierce County prosecutors, have supported my campaign. And the Children's Campaign Fund, whose sole purpose is to make sure our kids are safe, have endorsed my campaign. And I'm honored that the people we trust most trust me to get results in Olympia.
Jim Hines.
Yeah, and I'm about this to the legislature in 2004, we probably would be talking about this. We have 17 and 40 current level 3 sex offenders on GPS. We have 1,200 roaming our streets. These are people who have already destroyed children. It is eminently reasonable to ask the government to more closely monitor those that have already destroyed children that are most likely to offend. Each and every one of them should be on GPS, and they should be on GPS tomorrow. Penalties for failure to register. The legislature passed a 60-day county jail penalty for someone who's already offended and thumbed their nose at the registration system. It should be a year and 1 day in state prison to send a message. Furthermore, 2 recent Tacoma teachers, Chad Mon and Nelson Hanton Jr., both raped 14-year-old girls in Tacoma public schools. Both of them got SOSA treatment alternatives. Nothing in the bill that these people call the most toughest set of laws in the country, nothing changed prosecutors' ability to plea bargain all the way down to treatment alternatives, even when teachers rape children in schools. If unelected, SOSA will no longer be available for anyone in a position of authority and trust who has access to our children and then violates them.
Ron Bain.
Thank you, Jim. Jim's really trumpeted this cause for a number of years, and I thank him for it. I believe he'll be a very effective advocate for a very important cause. I've actually spent my entire lifetime dealing with these kind of kids and families. I spent over 30 years with broken kids, abused kids, kids that were victims of homes in which there was tremendous abuse over many, many years. So I spent my life in the trenches, and my heart breaks like yours does when we hear about a man coming into an Amish school and killing people and raping. And it's become a huge, huge problem in our society. Do we need stiff sentences? Yes, we do. And I support Jim's drive for a real Jessica's Law, which will accomplish what was being done last year was maybe a step in the right direction, but it was nobody needs a strong type of law. It left out 80% of those who would abuse kids, which are family members. We need a real Jessica's Law like many states do. Beyond that, you know what we really need in America? We need a moral renewal. Because the moral breakdown of the last 40 years is not going to be cured with a few laws. I spent a good part of my life in the area of moral and cultural renewal. I'd like to bring that and the strength of good law into the legislature next year.
Larry Sequist.
You know, personally, I hope that there is a special place in hell reserved for sex offenders. I do know that for every victim of the sex offenders, there is a lifelong hell right here on earth. And my own view is, as I understand it, the legislature last session passed something like 18 bills relating toughening sex offender laws. I'd like to see us change the agenda and start thinking about prevention. It's time to us think about how many school nurses we have. Do we have all of our kids covered with health care coverage? Are we aware of the signals that we need to see that indicate there is high risk of sex offense in what is often usually the family? So I would like to see us get a little bit more adult. Now, why do we have, let me ask you, why are we hearing all of this stuff about Jessica's Law and stuff? This is baloney politics. This is Karl Rove, hot button. I don't know, do they get this stuff by email out of the White House? The only reason we're hearing about this stuff is to divert our attention from the real issues of running around saying, oh, you know, I'm so tough, I'll put 3 doors on the jail. No, I'll have 4 doors, and they'll all be stainless steel. And then pretending that somehow that qualifies you to be a legislator for this state. That's flat wrong. It's deceptive. In fact, it's a kind of political corruption. I'm running for a different kind of politics in which all of us work together calmly to think through what are our problems, how are we, Republican, Democrat, and Independent, collectively going to solve those problems. That's what we need to be having a conversation. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, representatives, or candidates, I should say, from the 26th District. And now I invite you to take a chair out here and have the 27th, 28th, and 29th District candidates take a chair. And also, members of the audience, if you filled out an index card with a question for a candidate, you can give them to, there she is.